In my previous life, I was severely depressed and attempted to commit suicide on the rooftop. It was Malcolm who saved me. From then on, he became my salvation. Until I heard his inner thoughts. Host. Are you willing to exchange all the salvation points for Ivy's healthy body? Ivy is my younger sister. Of course. 10 Aurorus can't compare to 1 Ivy. Malcolm's voice sounded casually. After the salvation points were cleared, I was reborn back to when I was 17. When Malcolm tried to save me as he did in the previous life, I coldly said, "Get lost." The moment I heard Malcolm's inner thoughts, I couldn't believe it. Until he spoke casually, his eyes becoming fierce. Of course. 10 Aurorus can't compare to 1 Ivy. Besides, wasn't our initial goal to save Ivy in the first place? I stared coldly at Malcolm, feeling so angry that my whole body was trembling, which was a precursor to a depressive episode. Ivy is my fraternal twin sister. She has been weak since childhood, and our parents have always favored her, being indifferent to me. Until I was depressed and wanted to commit suicide, Malcolm saved me and gave me meticulous care. I thought he was my salvation. Unexpectedly, it was still for my dear sister. Anger rushed to my head, and my blood seemed to congeal, making me unable to move. Why give birth to me if you don't love me? Why use me? The moment the salvation points were cleared, my body was staggering. In the second before I passed out, I saw Malcolm's flustered expression. Malcolm, how come? Are you worried about your salvation points or about me? However, it doesn't matter anymore. The shaking lights were headache-inducing. I groggily opened my eyes. I found myself back in my sophomore year of high school, before I met Malcolm. Good student, are you pretending to be dead? A red-haired girl grabbed my hair and questioned me. This red-haired girl is one of Ivy's lackeys. In the previous life, Ivy was given the title of the campus belle as soon as she transferred to the school. Due to her glamorous appearance, she attracted many lackeys. And I was portrayed by Ivy as the vicious stepsister who bullied her. Good student. Are you mute? I'm telling you. The first place is Ivy's. Don't even think about competing with her. The red-haired girl viciously threatened. I stared coldly at her, looking at the camera on the ceiling, and let out a mocking laugh. In the previous life, in order to win my parents' love, I always pretended to be sunny and cheerful. Even when the red-haired girl bullied me, I pretended to be meek and weak. Unfortunately, apparently, it didn't work well. In the previous life, when my soul floated above, I saw everyone's expressions when I died. My parents didn't show the slightest bit of sadness. Instead, they were eyeing my remaining property kept aside. Ivy seemed sad on the surface. But when no one was around, she happily ate 2 more bowls of rice. As for Malcolm, he looked a bit lost. Damn. He's really good at acting. I don't consider myself a good person. When the red-haired girl bullied me in the previous life, although I seemed meek on the surface, in private, I sent the video to the Education Bureau, sowing discord among them and getting them expelled. I'm a person with a strong sense of revenge. In this life, I'm not going to pretend anymore. Nor will I endure it. Damn it. You bitch are still laughing. I'll tear your mouth apart. The red-haired girl angrily tried to slap me, but I suddenly grabbed her hand in reverse. In the red-haired girl's surprised eyes, I shook off her hand with such force that she stumbled. I walked over and locked the door. I approached the red-haired girl. Damn. I hate people who show off the most. Then, most sorry. In their surprised and angry eyes, I started a new round of beating. After dealing with the red-haired girl, I walked out of the bathroom refreshed. The feeling of going crazy is so good. It feels like my depression is about to get better. I strolled leisurely on the playground. Not having to attend class feels so good. Until an annoying guy showed up. Aurora is skipping class. Deduct 3 points. Hector's cold voice sounded above my head. Hector is the campus heartthrob of our school and also my desk mate. He is excellent in both character and learning, ranking first in the grade. He is gentle to everyone. But he just can't stand me. I was quite good at interpersonal relationships in the previous life. But I really don't understand him. According to my previous personality, I would obediently admit my mistake and then try to please him for the sake of my moral education points. Although he never showed any favoritism. I used to think that if I had top-notch grades, my parents would like me more. But in this life, I don't care anymore. I put my hands behind my head, ignored Hector's words, and continued to be leisurely. I didn't want to pay attention to someone who hated me. Hector put away his small notebook, forcefully took down my hands and placed them neatly on both sides. Looking at me coldly, "Stop making trouble. Aurora. Go to class quickly." I looked at him impatiently. Why does he care so much? In this life, I just want to stay away from those stupid people and stupid things and live the good life alone. Okay? Can't you just let me be at peace? I was extremely manic and restless inside. Stop meddling. Get out of here. Okay? Perhaps it was the first time I spoke to Hector in such a bad tone. Hector's eyes were slightly red, and he stubbornly refused to let go. I actually felt a sense of vulnerability from the expression of this cold-blooded demon king. Anyway, you can't skip class. Hector's voice was indifferent. His beautiful eyebrows tightly knitted, and his big hand held my arm tightly. Looking at his deep-set peach blossom eyes, I suddenly thought that Malcolm also had a pair. TSK. It's really disgusting. I exerted a little force and broke free from Hector. Coldly mocking. Idiot. Perhaps he didn't expect me to swear. This was indeed inconsistent with my previous persona. Hector showed a surprised expression. I walked away without looking back, missing the look of desolation in Hector's eyes. When I got home, hearing the sounds of playing and arguing in the living room, I walked in quietly. Why are you coming back so late? Your sister has been waiting for you for a long time. My father frowned and knocked on the table a few times to show his authority. I glanced at the dishes on the table. They were sumptuous but a bit messy. Ivy was eating while seemingly regretting. Sister. Mom and Dad made so many delicious dishes waiting for you to come back. Who knew you'd be so late? You know, I'm not in good health. So I ate a little first. You won't blame me, will you? At this time, my mother gently stroked Ivy's face and also showed some kindness appropriately. Yes. Aurora. Come and sit down and eat quickly. I looked at the table with only 3 sets of chopsticks and fell into thought. In the previous life, they were like this. No matter how flawed their actions were, their words of love for me were never lacking. But I was eager for love and never noticed it. I looked at them silently, not wanting to waste any words. Sister? Ivy called me uncertainly, her eyes full of schadenfreude. Ivy's father and mother also looked a bit displeased. I ignored them, walked closer to the inner bedroom, and said lightly, I'm going to move out. Ivy's father was so angry that he slapped the table hard. Absurd. Ivy's mother's face also looked bad. Only Ivy was gloating. I sneered. They were really stupid. Looking at this small 2-bedroom, 1-living-room house that I rented with my own money. Unexpectedly, there would be parents who stopped giving money to their child since high school. And even my tuition fees were earned by myself from working. Fortunately, I met a big shot online at that time. That big shot taught me some programming knowledge, so that I could barely make a living. At that time, I was very filial. I used the money I earned to rent a 2-bedroom, 1-living-room house for the family, and even my salary was transferred to Ivy's mother's card to cover most of the family's expenses. Now that I think about it, one of Ivy's bags cost several thousand yuan. How could they not have money to pay my tuition? Even my money was used by them to satisfy Ivy's vanity. Now I'm going to take it back. Aurora. Did something bad happen to you at school? Ivy's mother tried to smooth things over, but her eyes couldn't hide her disgust. Ivy led people to bully me. Either I stay in this house or she does. I watched indifferently, deliberately poking at their sore spot. Sure enough, Ivy's father's eyes widened in anger, and he stood up pointing at me, scolding me for being an ungrateful wretch. Ivy's mother, who always seemed kind-hearted, also reproached me. Your sister has been kind and weak since childhood. You must have been deceived by those people outside. If you were bullied, it must be your own fault. Instead of reflecting on yourself, you blame your sister. I interrupted her, with a calm expression. casually asking. So, choose me or her? Ivy shrank into Ivy's mother's arms like a pitiful little animal. Looking wronged. Ivy's father and mother started cursing. I quietly packed my luggage and came to the door. I've cancelled the salary card. As soon as I finished speaking, the sound of a vase falling was heard. I slammed the door shut, blocking out their curses. Carrying the suitcase and walking on the empty street, my heart also felt empty. As if I felt nothing. Ding. A message popped up on my phone. It was from that big shot. Do you want to take on the task? Thinking of my cancelled bank card and the little money I had left, I quickly replied, find me a few more. I'll take them all. After putting down my phone, unexpectedly, it rang again. It was a reply from the big shot. Short on money recently? Concise. As always. I replied, yes. The big shot, transferring 50. 0, The big shot, advancing your wages. Thank you. Boss. After that, he didn't reply anymore. After my small treasury was filled up briefly, my mood improved a lot. I'll easily found a hotel to stay in. The next day, when I went to school, people on the way were whispering about me when they saw me. I was used to it. One look and I knew it must be my dear sister's doing. Sure enough, I saw Ivy looking pitiful. Sister, you didn't go home, and Mom and Dad are very worried about you. They're both sick, Ivy said to me timidly, which made her little followers angry. What's just a stepsister? How dare she be so fierce? Ivy, you're just too kind. Another little follower chimed in, Ivy, don't let Uncle and Aunt care about this ungrateful wretch. Let her fend for herself. I stood lazily, enjoying their farce. When they felt bored, I slowly said, sick? Notify me when they're dead. Ivy's face turned pale for a moment. I stepped forward and playfully patted Ivy's collar, flicking off some lint. What? Without me, Miss Ivy can only wear these cheap clothes? Ivy stepped back in fear as if I had scared her. The little followers stared at me. I coldly glanced at them, perhaps remembering how badly I beat them that day. They became timid again, looking at their cowardly looks. I smiled faintly, little followers. Your young lady doesn't have money to support you anymore. After resolving this little episode, I entered the classroom in a rather good mood. The good student Hector had already started doing practice questions. I deliberately made a loud noise when pulling the chair. Hector's pen paused for a moment, but he didn't say anything and continued with his questions. I lay on the table, observing Hector. Hector was wearing a clean school uniform, his fair wrist holding a pen. He was so focused that it seemed nothing could make him show other emotions. However, he was really good looking. No wonder there were always so many admirers following him. As I was lost in thought, Hector's cold voice sounded, what are you looking at? Looking at how good looking you are. The words came out subconsciously. Fortunately, I have a thick skin. Hector's pencil broke. His pitch black eyes showed a moment of panic. So fast that I thought I was wrong. Boring. Hector changed to another pen on his own and continued writing. As if the sunlight was a bit too hot, I changed to lie on the other side. After a while, the teacher came, seemingly bringing a new classmate. Hello, everyone. I'm Malcolm. I sat up abruptly. Hector beside me noticed and looked at Malcolm with a bit more scrutiny in his eyes. Malcolm was wearing a black hoodie. His skin was fair, and his almond-shaped eyes were gentle and bright. With a slight smile, his cute tiger teeth showed. This caused countless girls below to stir. TSK. He really knows how to pretend. Perhaps on purpose. Malcolm's eyes turned to me. He walked gracefully to my side and asked Hector. Classmate, can I take your seat? Hector slightly raised his eyes. His tone cold, no. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I didn't expect Hector to be so discerning, even though he's not that great in other ways. Malcolm looked at me pitifully, as if hoping I would speak for him. I indeed spoke under his expectant gaze. Classmate, you're disturbing our study. Malcolm's expression froze, looking a bit embarrassed. The head teacher stepped in to smooth things over. Classmate Malcolm, I'll arrange another seat for you. After class. Aurora, you can show Malcolm around the campus. I frowned and was about to refuse. Hector stopped writing and said seriously, Teacher, Amora skipped class last time and had 3 points deducted from her moral education score. According to the school rules, she has to clean the school auditorium after class. The head teacher's face fell because our class is the top performing class. The moral education score is very important for being selected as an excellent class. So the head teacher finally asked me to clean the auditorium. Malcolm stared at Hector, smiling extremely friendly. I knew this was a sign that Malcolm really hated someone. Hector was going to be in big trouble. After Malcolm sat down, a current sound rang out. Host. The target of the strategy doesn't seem to be very friendly to you. A lazy voice sounded. It was Malcolm. It doesn't matter. Depressed patients are always more wary of others. Did I just hear their thoughts? Before I could recover, the system revealed something even more shocking to me. It turns out that the world I'm in is a novel world. Ivy is the female protagonist of the novel. Malcolm is a strategist who is about to be promoted to the main god of this world. According to their statement, there are 3,000 main gods in the 3,000 worlds, in charge of the trajectory of people's fate development. But due to some bugs, the female protagonist got heart disease. So Malcolm has to solve this problem. The system gave a plan. Increase my redemption value to make me optimistic. Then use my redemption value to save Ivy. And Ivy can't survive. And I'm just an insignificant villainess. A depressed patient who is jealous of her sister and disrespects her parents. Someone whose death is even a stepping stone for the growth of the female protagonist. Why? Can villains not be held accountable for their mistakes just because of the protagonist's halo? Since it's fate ordained, all my struggles seem like a joke. My heart felt like it was stuffed with a ball of cotton and was being squeezed tightly. The blood in my whole body seemed to flow backwards, making me feel extremely uncomfortable. In a trance, I heard a nervous greeting. What's wrong with you? But I couldn't answer. I couldn't speak. My brain told me I wanted to go crazy. I suddenly rushed out of the classroom and ran on campus. The suffocation brought by the rapid running made me feel refreshed. Plop. In a blur of consciousness, I found myself at the bottom of the sea. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. Malcolm was in the ward. I wasn't surprised. After all, I'm his target of the strategy. But Hector was also there? Hector's face was pale. There was a small red wound on his arm. He kept looking at me, his expression tense. Hector noticed that I woke up first. His expression relaxed slightly. He thoughtfully poured me a glass of warm water. Drink some water. I blinked. Was this a dream? Hector was being so gentle to me. I took small sips of water. Malcolm stepped forward, his tone like he was taking credit. Classmate Aurora. You finally woke up. Do you want to eat something? Host. Quickly take credit and make the female-led grateful to you. The electronic voice screamed excitedly. But it wasn't just me who saved her. Hector didn't say anything. Why should I be in a hurry? Malcolm glanced at Hector gloomily and quickly returned to normal. True. I really don't understand what this supporting male character is up to. Shouldn't he be head over heels for the female lead? The system whispered in complaint. I secretly tightened my grip on the cup, my eyes cold and sharp. Supporting male character? Head over heels for the female lead? So this was the reason why Hector had been targeting me? No need. Thank you both. I replied infuriately and officially. Hector's body stiffened slightly, and his eyes looking at me were full of inquiry. Malcolm's smile froze at the corner of his mouth. I want to rest alone for a while. I subtly drove him away. Hector's expression was a bit hurt, but he still left. Malcolm's mouth was still smiling, but his eyes were like they were on fire. The system was muttering. The villainess doesn't play by the rules. It's a bit difficult. Host. Malcolm gritted his teeth, his tone resentful. I like this kind of difficult one. The next day, after I had rested well, I returned to school. I noticed that passers-by were looking at me strangely. A classmate who was on good terms with me reminded me to check the campus forum. When I opened the campus forum, there was a striking title. Simple and straightforward, The School Hunk and the School Bully Fought for Love. The accompanying picture was of Hector holding me. Both of us soaked. And Malcolm looking at Hector fiercely. Trying to snatch me away. I thought. They really interpret things based on the picture. Both Hector and Malcolm have a lot of admirers. When I opened the comment section, it was full of people saying that I was scheming, and that there were even rumors about my chaotic private life, and that I made a living by selling myself. Looking at the familiar group of paid posters, I was so angry that I laughed. It was indeed the work of my dear sister. Heh. Female lead. Strategist. Supporting male character. Since you insist on dragging me into this, don't blame me for going crazy. First of all, it was my dear sister. I hacked into Ivy's phone and took screenshots of the evidence of her hiring paid posters. While looking through it, I found something even more interesting. Looking at those indecent pictures and videos, I couldn't help but feel ironic. Is this the pure and kind-hearted female protagonist? Suddenly, I wanted to change the way of playing. Sure enough, I'm the chosen villainess. I found the pages of Ivy's parents. Dad. Mom. My heart hurts a bit. Come to school and bring me some medicine. Ivy's father and mother have always doted on Ivy. They will surely come quickly. After editing an article and posting it anonymously on the campus forum, I walked into the campus. A group of Ivy's people came over like drama queens. Sister. I've been looking for you everywhere. Ivy put on an act of deep sisterly love. Sister. I didn't expect that after Mom and Dad kicked you out. You would actually do that kind of thing to make a living. Ivy accused me with a look of pity. And the people around echoed Ivy, pointing at me. I smiled casually. What kind of thing? A flash of luck appeared in Ivy's eyes. Her little face turned red suddenly. And she pretended to be kind. Sister. I'll give you money in the future. Don't do this anymore. Money? Where do you get the money? By selling yourself? Ivy's face turned pale in an instant, but after calming down, a triumphant smile flashed across her face. Sister. You're joking. I'm not like you. A chorus of voices praising Ivy and belittling me rang out. Suddenly, someone revealed on the campus forum that a scandal will be shown in the school auditorium at 3:00 p.m. today. With a video. Video? Could it be Aurora's video? Ivy's little minion smiled maliciously. Ivy panicked and explained, everyone. Don't be like this. My sister is a girl. Don't watch it. Although it was an explanation, it was a disguised admission. A flash of surprise and joy appeared in Ivy's eyes. Have a good time now. This is a surprise I prepared for you. Hector walked slowly through the crowd, a hint of impatience flashing across his handsome face. I teased, are you here to see me naked too? Hector's ears turned red. I know it's not you. In the crowd, the system's voice sounded, and I realized Malcolm was also nearby. Host. Aren't you going to help the villainess? Didn't you say that the higher the depression level, the easier it is to redeem? And this has nothing to do with us. Malcolm's cold voice sounded. In the auditorium, there were many students. Ivy was being coy, crying like a pear blossom in the rain. Looking at Hector. Hector. Don't dislike my sister. Don't abandon her. Hector's reaction was unexpectedly cold. Shut up. Ivy secretly raised her eyebrows at me. In a provocative way. As if saying, Hector doesn't want you anymore. I didn't respond. Just found it funny. As the big screen showed a series of ambiguous sounds. Everyone gasped. The person on the screen was Ivy. Not Aurora. Ivy's face suddenly turned deathly pale. And her little minions were also dumbfounded. Videos of Ivy having sex with different people appeared on the screen. And, well, they were all quite perverted. After those people were satisfied, they gave Ivy a lot of money. Ivy knelt on the ground, thanking them with gratitude. Her eyes obsessed. The way everyone looked at Ivy changed. At first, some people said it was photoshopped. As the chat records were exposed, everyone knew that Ivy had framed me. And the voices gradually died down. But there were still a few little minions insisting on explaining for Ivy. Our Ivy is a young lady. How could she possibly sell herself? Wake up. It must be photoshopped. Although Ivy's face was pale, she still nodded slightly. Everyone's rationality gradually returned. And many people echoed, Miss Ivy is so rich. She couldn't have done such a thing. It must be a frame-up. Ivy seemed to suddenly understand, looking at me in disbelief. Sister. You can't frame me like this just to cover up your own scandal. As Ivy added fuel to the fire, the atmosphere was pushed to a climax again. At this time, Ivy's father and mother arrived. Ivy's father was drunk. And Ivy's mother came with unwashed hair and wearing slippers. The two of them no longer had their former glamour. The words poor and slovenly seemed to be engraved on them. The classmate who led the way shouted, Ivy. Your parents are here to see you. Everyone looked at Ivy's parents. Ivy's mother didn't figure out the situation. She just took out the medicine for Ivy. Ivy's father kept muttering beside her, Daughter. I brought you the medicine. The classmates who loved to watch the excitement added fuel to the fire. Ivy isn't really a young lady. Her parents look so shabby. The classmates who usually didn't get along with Ivy also spoke up at this time. She's really vain. Miss Ivy. They emphasized the words, Miss particularly strongly. And everyone burst into laughter. Ivy's mother didn't understand the situation. But she instinctively protected Ivy and said shrewishly, What nonsense are you talking about? You little slut? If you say another word, I'll tear your mouth apart. A kind-hearted classmate beside her reminded, Ante. Take a look at the big screen before you speak. The unbearable to listen to voices on the big screen entered the ears of Ivy's father and mother. Ivy's mother's eyes were flustered. And she glanced at me, It's you. You framed your sister. You jinx. Ivy's father also started scolding me without understanding the situation and even tried to come forward and hit me. But Hector suddenly stood in front of me. And his voice was as cold as ice. Take the irrelevant people out. Ivy's father and mother were still cursing. And the onlookers finally understood what was going on. Ivy was not only not a young lady, but also had a chaotic private life. And she had a pair of strange parents. The object of everyone's discussion changed from me to Ivy. Ivy's expression was quite wonderful. She couldn't bear it and fainted. The system issued an alarm, warning. Host. The female lead is in critical condition. Please carry out treatment as soon as possible. Malcolm rushed over from the crowd, picked up Ivy, and walked out. I heard him say to the system with a playful tone. System. This supporting female character is quite interesting. I thought. When I came to my senses, I found Hector staring at me. There was an emotion in his eyes that I couldn't understand. Was it heartache? My heart was a little flustered. In the evening, when I got home and went online to check my phone, that big shot actually sent me a message out of the blue. The big shot, how have you been recently? Bye, I'm in a great mood. I have a good appetite. The big shot, oh. Then how are you getting along with others? I was quite curious. The big shot seemed to be very talkative today. But this big shot was like a teacher and a friend to me. I could always be more open-hearted with him. Perhaps because he was the first person to help me when I was in trouble. I took the initiative to say, it's okay. It's just that the people around me have become a bit strange. And I'm a little overwhelmed. The big shot? He and I are kind of like sworn enemies. But he saved me and helped me. The big shot, could he be in love with you? Impossible. He hates me. The big shot, have you thanked him yet? I really hadn't thought about it. No. The big shot, then you can ask him out for a meal and thank him properly. Okay. After a while, I asked another question. Boss. How old are you? You seem to like meddling in other people's business quite a bit. The big shot, at my age. I don't like meddling in other people's business. I prefer to play matchmaker. Especially for you, little girl. After that, I sent a message to Hector, asking him out tomorrow to thank him properly. Hector replied instantly. The next day, I arrived at the appointed restaurant. A little thing like a firecracker suddenly rushed towards me. The little thing looked up, revealing a face that was a miniature version of Hector's, and shouted at me aggrievedly. Mom. There's a girl trying to seduce my dad. As a high school girl. I was like, seriously? Everyone in the whole restaurant fell silent for a moment because of his shout. Hector came over at this time and pulled the little thing away, saying helplessly, What are you shouting about? The little thing pouted, looking very aggrieved. Just now. A girl was pestering you. Was it wrong for me to ask her to leave? The little thing shouted. Then stomped angrily towards the private room and ignored Hector. Forgive me for laughing unkindly. He looked so much like Hector. It's hard to imagine Hector making these expressions with his cold face. In the private room, Hector pulled the little thing and introduced to me. Aurora. This is my younger brother Dylan. Dylan pouted, showing his dissatisfaction. I don't need you to introduce. This name is so dull. It's not cute at all. Then Dylan looked at me. With his cute little face looking serious. Sister. My name is Dylan. I'm 5 years old this year. Everyone likes to call me by my nickname. Felix. I came up with it myself. Felix. You're quite a cultured kid, I said. A bit amused. Felix proudly puffed out his little chest. He was really cute. At this time, the waiter came to take our order. Seeing Felix, the waiter praised, "What a cute kid. Your family of 3 has such high-level looks." My face turned bright red. I looked at Hector. And Hector's expression was also a bit unnatural. I was just about to explain when Hector said, "Serve the dishes." The waiter left quickly. I got to the point. Hector. Thank you for saving me last time. And thank you for helping me. Hector's voice was indifferent. Yeah. After the meal, I originally planned to end things with Hector like this. But Felix pulled me and Hector, asking us to accompany him to the amusement park. Hector looked at me with helpless eyes and a bit of pleading. I agreed. In the amusement park, Felix had a great time. Felix took a few hair hoops, put them on me and Hector, and asked us to take pictures with him. I wore a bunny hair hoop. Hector had a big bad wolf one. And Felix had a little tiger one. Each photo captured our happy smiles. In the evening, when we were about to part ways, the weather didn't cooperate. And it started pouring. Hector said his home was nearby and asked me to take shelter there for a while. Hector held Felix and an umbrella. Since the umbrella was small, Hector had to hold me close. A faint scent of sea salt and lime wafted into my nose. Being so close, I noticed that Hector was different from usual. He seemed to have dressed up today. And he even did his hair? He was usually elegant and cold, but today he had a bit more wild handsomeness. Suddenly, I thought of what the big shot said about whether Hector liked me. My face slowly turned red. I glanced away a bit unnaturally, but missed Hector's flustered eyes and his gradually uneven breathing. I can hold the umbrella for you, I said. Hector refused. No need. We'll be there soon. After arriving at Hector's house, Hector went to take a shower. I stayed in the living room to play with Felix. The little guy came up to me mysteriously. Sister. My brother has a secret. Oh? I was very curious. Felix took me to Hector's room and gave me an album. When I opened it, I was stunned. They were all about me? As I flipped through the pages, I was a bit dazed when I saw the first photo. It was an old photo taken several years ago. The picture of the girl riding a bike freely was actually captured by him. So, he had known me for so long. Hector's computer flashed, and a familiar online name popped up. It was Aurora. That was the big shot's online name. Aurora. Aurora. My face turned bright red. I never thought Hector was such a reserved and passionate person. I couldn't face him anymore. Just then, the rain outside stopped. Hector came directly to the room after coming out of the bathroom. What are you two doing here? Hector was wearing a white t-shirt, and his freshly washed black hair hung over his forehead, making him look extremely cute and soft. Felix laughed triumphantly. Brother. I told sister your secret. Hector's face became a bit unnatural. Pink slowly climbed up his ears and cheeks. After a while, he stammered. Do you know everything? I pretended to be calm. Yeah. It's not raining outside anymore. I'm leaving. The light in Hector's eyes gradually dimmed. When he spoke again, his voice was a bit hoarse, like a puppy that had been abandoned. Okay. I didn't know how to respond in my heart, so I could only escape. Facing Hector, it was impossible to say that I wasn't a bit attracted to him. But at the same time, I was also afraid of the plot and my illness. I walked to the downstairs of the community when a strong force came from behind and grabbed my hand. It was Hector. Hector was a bit flustered. No longer his usual calm self. His voice was a bit shaky. After you know. Are you going to draw a line with me? Will you ignore me from now on? Please don't ignore me. Okay? Hector's face slowly got closer to mine. His eyelashes were long and thick, trembling as he spoke. He was so pitiful. At this moment, I gave in. I won't ignore you. I just need some time to think. Hector's eyes lit up. And he was a bit excited. He tempted me. No need to think. We can try dating. If it doesn't work out, you can say so. And I promise I won't pester you anymore. It seemed like he had a point. So, I impulsively agreed. After getting home, I suddenly thought of my initial concerns. Why did I agree? I was annoyed. However, looking at the photo of Hector, Felix, and me that I hung up, the corners of my mouth curved up involuntarily. If Hector and I had a family in the future, would it be like this? On Malcolm's side. Warning. Host. The supporting female character's depression value is dropping rapidly. Only 20 is left. Malcolm, however, didn't care. Instead, he asked a question: system. If Aurora's depression is completely cleared, what will happen to her? The system lied. She'll be the same as a normal person. A healthy person. By the way, host, shouldn't we use some means to increase Aurora's depression value now? Otherwise, it'll be hard to get her salvation value. Malcolm seemed to think for a moment. Then chuckled. No need. I think she's fine like this. The system fell silent. And its electronic eyes emitted a strange light. The next day, I went back to school for classes. Ivy was also there. Unusually, petting fulfilled wide session. She didn't cause any trouble. Her former lackeys also distanced themselves from her. The way she looked at me was filled with undisguised hatred. I don't know what got into Malcolm recently. He's been fussing over me. Bringing me breakfast. Hector, sitting next to me, was giving off a cold aura, making me feel extremely uncomfortable. I shuddered and refused Malcolm without mercy. Get lost. Malcolm wasn't angry. Instead, he smiled in a rather flirtatious way. I heard him say to the system. System, what? How can someone be so cute even when they're angry? The system didn't respond as usual. It remained silent. What on earth is wrong with Malcolm? No. Because of Malcolm's attentions. Hector lacks a sense of security every day and has become a clingy person. He asks me every day, King Bao. Do you still love me today? King Bao. Have you fallen in love with some other little vixen outside today? I'm like, looking at this big, resentful dog-like guy beside me. Where is the cold and aloof look he had at the beginning? One day, Ivy's parents asked me to meet them, saying they wanted to draw a clear line with me. But when I got there, only Ivy was there. Ivy no longer had her initial glamorous appearance. There were scars, big and small, on her body. I heard that after what happened last time, the love of Ivy's father and mother seemed to disappear along with the destruction of Ivy's reputation. They often beat and cursed Ivy. Ivy's life was even worse than mine used to be. The system once said that Ivy's father and mother were vain people. They doted on Ivy because she was sick, which could help them build a good parent image. Just like they didn't really love me. But they could use PUA to make me think they did. Give me 1 million. And I'll leave here and never get in your way again. Ivy said coldly. As if she was quite certain that I would agree. I chuckled. What makes you so confident, Miss Ivy? Ivy also smiled. She took out a report and carefully unfolded it. It was my depression diagnosis form. Bipolar disorder and depression. I didn't expect you to be a crazy person. I faced it calmly. So what? Are you threatening me with this? Does Miss Ivy have any brains at all? I stood up and was about to leave. Ivy said in a gloomy tone. What if Hector knew about this? Warning. The villainess's depression value has increased strangely. This is a good opportunity. Host. Let's go redeem her quickly. Malcolm frowned, his voice stinged with a hint of anger. What's going on? Since Ivy mentioned Hector, my mind became muddled. It seemed that countless Hectoresses were accusing me in my mind. Calling me crazy. Countless Hectores were telling me that he and Ivy were true love. My head felt like it was about to explode. Then, went out a low sigh. A girl burst in. Her voice was as sweet as a silver bell. The illusions around me gradually disappeared. She told me that she was the new main god of this world. Because of Malcolm, I didn't have a good impression of the so-called main gods. She wasn't angry. Instead, she was very patient. Malcolm, because of your deep obsession with becoming the main god, you've forgotten your original intention and focused too much on the rules. But you, because of your awakening, have broken away from your original fate. You make me feel that everything has its own destiny. We shouldn't dictate it, but should conform to the harmony of people. With a gentle wave of her hand, I saw many truths that I didn't know before. It turned out that in the previous life, Malcolm didn't know that emptying my redemption value would kill me. The system, out of self-interest, used Ivy to try to worsen my depression, but was stopped by this girl. I clenched my fists in anger. Ivy, that fool. After regaining my senses, I pretended to be scared and said I would give her money. I dragged Ivy to the bathroom. In a place without surveillance. I gave her a good beating. Then I called the police, saying that Ivy had drugged me in the coffee. Ivy also told the police that I had hit her. But, fortunately, hadn't fulfilled Lee. I knew how to hit without leaving any wounds. When Hector came to the police station to pick me up, he worriedly turned me around to check. Are you hurt anywhere? No. I shook my head vigorously. Thinking about Ivy's threat to me before, I decided to talk to Hector about it. Hector, do you know I have depression? I know. My heart sank. Hector held my hand in return and comforted me softly. Aurora, this is just a kind of illness. Not some other label. It's the same as having a fever or a cold. If you think I'll dislike you because of this, you're wrong. On the contrary, I'll cherish you more and pay attention to your emotions. Because I'm really proud to see Meyer getting better day by day. His eyes were sincere. Bright. Warm. And clear. Filled with nothing but me and his love for me. My eyes felt a bit sore. But the corners of my mouth were raised. I'm very satisfied with you as my boyfriend. You can be promoted to a formal one. Hector pinched my face. Looking dissatisfied but actually happy. Stingy. I thought I was already a formal one. Yes. I'm stingy. How about I make you an intern boyfriend again? I pretended to be fierce while acting coquettously. No. Hector clung to me. Acting coquettously, fly without restraint. In the days that followed, Malcolm disappeared. And no one in the whole school remembered him. Ivy had to stay in prison for the rest of her life because she offended some people. After graduation, I gave Hector a formal status. Hector was like a child, showing off to everyone. Extra after marriage one day, I asked Hector why he was always so mean to me when we were in school. Hector looked at me pitifully. Wasn't it because you only talked to others and not to me? I just wanted to get your attention. Wrong. Copy it 100 more times. A childish and cold voice sounded. I looked ahead at our son, who was teaching the neighbor's little sister to write. Son, are you perhaps the same as your father? Hector saw it too. He secretly laughed aside, not planning to tell his son that a wife needs to be coaxed. Malcolm's extra when I heard that Aurora's depression value was rising rapidly. My heart couldn't help but panic. When I wanted to go to her side, I somehow returned to the system space. The girl in front of me told me that she was the newly appointed main god. She showed me the stupid things the system had done on its own and told me that Aurora was okay. Fortunately, having fulfilled what I'd say, no major disaster had occurred. She told me about her concept of this world. I realized my shortcomings. So, I decided to go to different worlds for further experience. As for Aurora, seeing her happy and sweet future with Hector, I smiled softly. It was just a dream that didn't belong to me in this small world. I asked the main god to delete my memories in this world. I'd better focus on my career.